How's it going, guys? I'm John Snyder, and welcome to my personal channel. And, well, as you can probably guess by this guy right here, I'm kind of a big Godzilla fan. Let's see, I've seen the Godzilla movies countless times. I mean that literally. I can't count the many times I've seen all the Godzilla movies. Um, So yeah, I figured because I'm such a huge Godzilla fan and there is a very new Godzilla movie I'm very much excited to see coming out in theaters on May 31st. I figured I'd do a kind of a lead up video series. Uh Not a daily one, but a weekly one because I'm kind of focused on other things. And again, this is my personal free time channel and where I'm just going to talk whatever I want to talk about. So we're gonna break this up to how the series are breaking up. So we're gonna start off with Showa era, which is probably gonna be the longest video. So this is gonna be the Showa era films. Then next will be the Heisei era slash the Versus series slash the second series. Then that next video after that's gonna be the Millennium series, and right after it's gonna be uh the new series or series is yeah, like we're going to talk about the Japanese and MonsterVerse plus Shin Godzilla and the anime trilogy essentially. And I'll probably discuss 98 in the second series ones. But anyway, let's jump right into talking about the Showa era because oh boy, I mean we're talking about 15 Godzilla movies, and that is not including all the other kaiju movies Toho made during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So yeah, we have no time to waste, and let's start off with the 1954 classic Godzilla, uh, or Godzilla. I love that film. It is my second favorite Godzilla film. I'll tell my first, my number one favorite is in later in this video. I'll tell you why, but I do think it is legitimately the best Godzilla movie. Not like even though it's not say my most favorite, it's definitely up there. It is objectively the best. It has really good, like I think there's probably plenty of flaws that I just don't see because I have a huge bias. Uh, well, like the I'm doing this in one take, and I'm not gonna edit. I'm gonna unapologetically not edit this video. Again, I don't wanna personal channel, not where I want to spend my time and energy on when I have other channel I'm trying to put time and energy on and games I'm trying to play. Sidetracking. Anyway, Gojira. Really amazing film. Definitely watch it if you haven't. Uh, I love, this Godzilla being loose on the city. I love the effects. I love the details in the model cities. I love the discussions of, atomic, nuclear technology and should they keep Godzilla alive? Should they try to kill Godzilla? There's a lot of discussion in this film, and that's what the human characters are for. That's what kind of makes them engaging to an extent, especially Dr. Serizawa, who is a very sympathetic character and who was shrouded in mystery in the beginning. Uh, Again, definitely go see this even if you're not a Godzilla fan. I highly recommend it. Then I'm actually going to talk about the American release of Godzilla King of the Monsters, not to be confused with the one coming out in May 31st, 2019. This one came out in 1956, starring Raymond Burr, and I mean, they tried to insert Raymond Burr into the original film. Didn't quite work. Not as well as they probably want. I mean, granted, at the time it was very successful, but I don't think it's very much aged well compared to now that we like originally when we didn't have access over here in the States of the original Japanese version. This was what we were able to get. I remember having the VHS tape of this. I have the. Actually, hang on 1 second. Whoa, unapologetically, uh, I have this DVD. I should definitely show off my Godzilla DVD collection in one of these videos. Uh, yeah, pretty much this was the only version we have. We only had the American version. It wasn't until recently, uh, Classic Media released these. When I first saw the Japanese version, I actually got this first, and then Blu-ray, where I saw the original Japanese version. And of course, we cannot neglect to talk about the, there we go, the Criterion collection. Now this is a very, if you had to choose between Classic Media or Criterion, definitely go for Criterion, because I believe the Classic Media one is maybe, well, I forgot the word, but I don't think the line's running anymore. That's out of print. There we go. I believe the Classic Media version's out of print, and overall this has the better quality, not only in subtitles, but it has more special feature content. But if you are definitely completist, or you'll probably have the Classic Media version. And I'm just saying, if you had to choose one or the other, go with this one. However, I don't want to knock Classic Media version, because I love that version as well, and it has its own commentary. So yeah, get both if you can, but if you have to choose one, Criterion is the better version in my opinion. Now, let's talk about the original film sequel, Godzilla Raids Again. Honestly, it's my least favorite Godzilla movie. I don't hate any Godzilla movie, but this one's the most boring to me. I think part of it is that the monster battle. This was when Toho didn't have the monster battle formula down, and the fight Godzilla has with Anguirus. Well, let me just explain. Godzilla fights Anguirus in this film, and instead of the human cast being scientists and all that, it's workers, the common folk. And I appreciate the new angle, just kind of going to the more of like, oh, this isn't the people who are in the government. These are the real people. They're just the normal everyday people. I do like that aspect, that they were trying to focus on those type of characters. But yeah, part of it is Godzilla kills Anguirus in the middle of the film, and then you're just back to a solo monster. That's part of it. There's other parts where it's just like right after the battle between Godzilla and Anguirus, Godzilla goes away for a bit, and there's not even really mention of monster battles. It's just life as normal, and just trying to rebuild. And I get what they were going for, but it's one of those, like, I feel there were some missteps in direction. It felt more like a generic B movie, and Godzilla's kind of above generic B movie monster in my opinion, or especially compared to the 1954 classic. And overall, also the editing was a bit very off in the battle. Definitely, I know the story, that was a big oopsie. Overall, it's just not very engaging to me, at least the Japanese version. The American version, which they confusingly tried to call Godzilla Gigantus. Don't know why. If you know why they did that, leave a comment down below. I would actually really like to know. But that's a kind of a funny film in retrospect. Just like, their choices were really off. Like, you thought the choices were off, in the Japanese version. Oh boy. First they called Godzilla Gigantus, and they switched the wars between Godzilla and Anguirus. It's very confusing. And we're actually going to now I'm going to keep this in mind. I'm only going to talk about films I've seen often or recently. So if I've seen like so I'm going to talk about two kaiju films that are not Godzilla films, but are just as important. But I'm not going to talk about the Mysterians, which had the first appearance of Mogera, simply or Varan, because I haven't seen those recently, and I've only seen them once, and I don't want to give off a miscorrect, misinformation on purpose. I think my opinion would definitely change since it's been years since I've seen either one of those films. I know there's other films Toho's made, and I just probably haven't seen those films from the 50s, so we're still in the 50s. And I'm going to talk about Rodan, which was its Toho's first colored giant monster film, and I actually just got done watching that film this morning. And it is similar in aspect to the original Godzilla. Actually, it's even quite more similar to 2014 Godzilla, because first half is more focused on the Meganula. Those are the monsters until halfway through Rodan is revealed, and we see Rodan, destroying cities, and the Meganulas are human-sized kaiju. And I think it works better here than it did Godzilla, when it comes to, building up the monster. Is, for one, the shorter runtime is very much beneficial. The other thing is that scale-wise between the two, it wasn't, they were necessarily setting up an enemy for Rodan to fight in the film. No, the Meganula, they were, this creature killing these miners. So when it comes to the reveal of Rodan, we have that visual glimpse of, the baby Rodan eating the Meganula like they're insects. To show the scale of what we're actually really talking about. Like, see those creatures that were very hard for the humans to kill? Yeah, that monster is literally eating those, Meganula up, because it is literal ants, and I think it's one of the best size comparisons we actually have in the Showa era films. And I think the build-up was very, very nice. I do love the brief, action in the city. Just seeing the models being blown away by Rodan, flapping his wings. And of course, this is the best model, version, like, best look Rodan has in most people's opinions. However, I think the new design might change my opinion. Might. I'll have to see, it full on in the movie to get a full assessment. But it's going up to be, it might beat the original design as my favorite. And I do love how they bring in the aspect of two Rodans. Again, kind of bringing it to the 2014 one, but I guess this was the Muto movie, but with a cooler kaiju, Rodan. Rodan's a really awesome kaiju, and it's definitely one of my favorite kaiju. That'll be it for that movie. Now we go on to Mothra. I adore Mothra. Not only the film, but the creature. Oh my goodness, Mothra is adorable. I love the comedic tone 1961's Mothra takes. And yes, now we are in the 60s. And I think part of it is the casting of... I'm not good with names, so I'm not even going to bother to say them, but the news reporter, he was very funny and very entertaining to watch. And also, there is a riff tracks for that movie. Highly recommend you go check that one out. So, fairies, that's also we first, hear the iconic Mothra song. And the fairies, Infant Island, this is the Mothra movie. Recommend you go see it. It's a really entertaining movie. There's some flaws, and maybe it is a little bit too cheesy, and it is more into the fantasy and not so much the science fiction as the other kaiju films. And yeah, that's gonna be about it for Mothra, because I gotta roll this on. I'm already 14 minutes in, and we haven't even scratched the surface because we now have to talk about King Kong vs. Godzilla. And that is the iconic monster rumble there is in movie cinema until the reboot comes out. Uh, yeah, it's a very engaging film. I'm going to really talk about the American version because I've only seen the Japanese version once, but that's because it's hard to really find the Japanese version here in America because for some reason we just don't have a physical media version of the Japanese version, just the English one. The English one is very different, but I still find it very entertaining. I like I the English dub kind of has a weird charm for me. I don't know why. Maybe it's just nostalgia. Uh, I love how everything's set up, to the action because we get one really awesome fight. Uh, I know I have like a lot of nostalgia for this film, and a lot of these films are gonna say I have a lot of nostalgia for. Yeah, because I grew up with these films. Uh, I do like the Kong's song. I love how you know I feel like both monsters get an equal amount of screen time. I do feel the American version makes a Godzilla tries to play Godzilla down, saying he's an idiot. Like his brain, like I don't know what proportion they were going, but their brains, Godzilla's brains, the size of a marble. Like what? What you're saying? A 50-meter tall monster, his brain's the size of a marble. I don't think you're a very good scientist. If you haven't seen this film, definitely check it out if you're really into action. Um, However, I just don't think Toho. This is gonna be a controversial opinion, even though I love the fights. I love the action. To me, Toho was not quite there yet. Just not yet. They were just like they were almost there, but I think they there was just a couple of kinks. And they fixed those kinks with my favorite Godzilla movie, Mothra vs. Godzilla. Now, why is this my favorite? Well, not only did I grow up, appreciating the effects and kind of blending the more serious tone of the original with the action pack of King Kong vs. Godzilla, I also have a lot of nostalgia for this film. This is one of the films I watch the most often. Godzilla and Mothra are now an iconic duo because of this film. Well, duo, I mean enemies. The music is really great. The action is probably one of the series' best, or the Showa series' best, in my opinion. Some of the effects, really paid off, and I know some people find the ending to be anticlimactic, but I really like that fight scene of at the end with the two Mothra larvae fighting Godzilla, and them, just kind of guerrilla war, like hiding between the rocks and webbing Godzilla from behind. I think part of it is that they were really setting stakes up with that final battle because not only was Godzilla destroying this village, it was this field trip of students, stuck on that island. Godzilla was attacking Mothra. They are incredibly outpowered by Godzilla, but they win with their brains and trapping Godzilla in their webbing and having him fall over the ledge, while the main characters are getting that group of school children off the island. It's really intense, and definitely go see this if you're a Godzilla fan. I mean, if you're a Godzilla fan, you've seen this. Let's be honest here. And now let's talk about the Avengers. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, Ghidorah the three-headed monster. I say it's the Avengers because it is. It practically is the Avengers of kaiju films. Simply in the same stake as it was leading up to this combination of all these movies that saying they're in the same universe, because you got Godzilla, you got Rodan, you got the Mothra, and you got some continuity, and you got a huge threat that's going to destroy the world if these monsters don't come together. And I do love, they try to keep continuity because they mention, the Mothra twins. They mentioned that one of the larvae died, which that's very sad. Why? Why did they do that? Uh, they also had Godzilla appearing in the ocean, which is where we last saw him in Monster vs. Godzilla. And they kept Mothra vs. Godzilla in continuity. And I think Mothra twins being, stage presence, I feel like that is a callback to the 1961 film, because if you've seen that film, the Mothra twins were kidnapped and were put on show for display, but this time it was on the twins are going up on their own choice, which is kind of nice. It's goofy, but it's really nice. And Rodan was comes out of a mountain, like the same mountain that is where the two Rodans at the end of first one got killed off. And theory is this was an egg that just got hatched later. And also this is our first appearance of Godzilla's arch enemy, King Ghidorah. Oh, I love Ghidorah in this film. Movement, everything. And just kind of like the steps, it's weird because leading up to this, the kaiju were always kind of based on monsters or insects, or something real. Ghidorah, on the other hand, is a three-headed golden dragon that shoots lightning bolts from its mouth. And it's one of those, like, okay, guys. And I think that's why Ghidorah, in an essence, is perfect. Like, in a perfect archenemy for Godzilla, because he's Godzilla's kind of polar opposite. In a sense. Just design-wise, we got some, that's really based on dinosaurs, something that was living. And then we have Ghidorah, that's just this chaotic creature that's wacky and psychotic and all that. Very cool. Anyway, moving on. We are already 22 minutes in. Jesus. And we haven't even talked about Invasion of the Astro Monster, aka Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, aka Monster Zero. Yeah, there's a lot of titles for these films. And I really enjoyed watching this film as a kid. I love the space element. I love the design of the Planet X people. I believe they're called the Exians here. Even though we don't get that much kaiju action, I think the space element, with the aliens and stuff, makes up for it. It's a really enjoyable plot. Not necessarily good, but very enjoyable plot-wise. Definitely check that out if you're into alien invasion movies. And now we're actually going to take a break from Godzilla movies, and we're going to talk to other Toho monster movies, specifically Frankenstein versus Baragon, aka Frankenstein Conquers the World. Wait, Frankenstein's in the Godzilla universe? I mean, he was supposed to be in King Kong vs. Godzilla, according to some rumors. Crazy. I want to talk about it because the monster Baragon later on appears in 2 different Godzilla movies. We'll get to that later. And also stars Nick Adams, which he played Glenn in Invasion of the Astro Monster. It's pretty enjoyable. I've seen it a couple times, but I've seen it more recently. That's why I'm talking about it. The fight's okay. Yeah, I think it's a little weird, just seeing, because Frankenstein's kind of just a guy. He's not a guy in a monster suit, so it's a little weird seeing that and having, the footage, being, more fast paced and not as slow as we're used to it. But I do like the lead up, at the very beginning when they're getting the Frankenstein's heart from Germany, transporting it all the way to Japan, where we find out it's going to be experimented because the heart's still alive. And we find out that, and the building gets destroyed because we realize this is Hiroshima during World War II, which is like, oh, that's very nice. It's a very solid, entertaining film, but I don't necessarily say it's very memorable now that I think about it, but what is very memorable is it's sort of sequel. I think it's more of a sequel in Japan than in the English version because yeah, there's some weird how the actors change and the monsters look different. So it's kind of hard to. It's pretty much a sequel, but sort of a reboot at the same time. And what film am I talking about? Well, of course, that is War of the Gargantuas. Oh boy. Now, if you want some real prime humanoid monster action, this is the place to go because you got some warring brothers, you got a sympathetic monster that really likes humans, and you got another monster that eats humans. They're brothers, they fight at the end. It's a very enjoyable film. Music, sound, is very on par, and it definitely deserves the title War. When it comes to the end of the film, the only thing I don't like about the film is that it doesn't end. What do you mean it doesn't end? Movies end. Well, here's the thing: it doesn't have a proper ending. It just stops because last thing we see is Gargantua is fighting in the ocean, and then underwater volcano shows up. There you go, missing. The end. Like, well, okay. Okay, whatever, I guess. So yeah, that was a sidetrack, but I feel like it's important to discuss because those films are going to be relevant in later on. And oh boy, we are not even into the 70s and we are 26 minutes into this video. Jeez Louise. We gotta talk about the island films. And we gotta start off with Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, aka Ebra, Horror of the Deep. And Ebra is my least favorite monster. I don't think he was a very good villain for Godzilla. Funny enough, this was supposed to be a King Kong film, but I think Toho decided Godzilla makes more money. So that's why Godzilla kind of acts like King Kong in this film. But I do admit that I find the human plot very enjoyable, and I remember reading this once or hearing about this that Akira Takarada really enjoyed playing the role that he was in because it was more of a villainous role. He wasn't the bad guy. No, he was more of an anti-hero, but he was a bank robber. Right? He was a robber. And he had more fun playing this more, morally, like this anti-hero character, and I don't blame him. He looks like he's legitimately having fun. And I feel like the human plot's very goofy, and they are actually very, memorable in the sense that they are definitely not something we would normally see in Godzilla films, or we would see scientists. No, these are, again, going back into, the common folk, but this is not even the common folk. These are kind of, these weird outcasts, because, one of them's a bank robber, one of them's looking for lost brother, who was lost at sea. Two were just, two people, the kid who was looking for his brother picked up, it's a really wacky adventure, and I actually recommend checking out the movie, even though Ebra is my least favorite kaiju. And then we go to Son of Godzilla. Godzilla has a son? Yeah, he adopts him. His name's Minya, and he gets a bad rap for his looks, but I personally don't mind it. And what's funny is I was making fun of Geodome because I'm like, Son of Godzilla, they had a weather. They were talking about a machine that can control weather, and Geostorm really ignored the part where it's like, hey, the scientists in that film say, hey, we don't want this information going out publicly because people could take advantage and screw over the world. And I do love the giant insects, going back to that. And I love the island setting, the Godzilla suit. See, yeah, that was not one of its best designs. But now we get to a very fun film. Destroy All Monsters. I had so much fun watching this as a kid. Growing up, if you watch it for the plot, you're gonna, or substance really, there's not much to actual substance. Don't get me wrong, it's very entertaining and enjoyable. It's a popcorn flick. And it's very much a special effects spectacle. There's a lot of monster action in this one. Uh, Funny enough, though, I comment on monster action and all that. I'm a film student, uh, digital cinema student, but and it's one of those like it's funny. I don't know if this makes me gonna make me a bad filmmaker or not. Well, first of all, I'm gonna be making games, so I'm not even really pursuing the whole filmmaker aspect much now. I'm just gonna be more implementing those aspects into games I'm making. But anyway, sidetrack there. Uh, Destroy all monsters. Like I know I comment, and praise, the ones that are just, more about the monster actions. But I'm just kind of, if I was to do, full on film analysis, analyzing for each of these films, you probably get different opinions. But overall, I'm just going for sheer enjoyment factor of how much I enjoyed it. So, should have probably said that at the beginning. Oh well. Oh boy, 30 minutes in, and I haven't talked to you why this movie's so awesome. We got alien invasions, we got monsters, rampaging all over the world. We got Monsterland. We got probably one of the largest casts of Godzilla, monsters. I don't think the largest. I think Final Wars beats it by a couple of kaiju, but we see pretty much everyone leading up to this film. And the enemy is King Ghidorah. Sadly, that is kind of a letdown because it's one, in the essence, just like, oh, well, King Ghidorah got beaten by Rodan and Godzilla in Monster Zero. He's gonna not have a good time here. That's fun. In fact, he dies. He straight up dies in that film. But it is a very enjoyable film, and the stage destruction, I love it. And it was supposed to be Toho's swan song, and because they just kind of want to stop doing Godzilla movies. Success was not doing. It was starting to, profits wise, it was starting to go down, and they're like, all right, let's end it. Let's go all out. Well, Destroy All Monsters was pretty successful, and successful enough to have Toho greenlight another Godzilla movie year after. And this is probably the most controversial Godzilla film, Godzilla's Revenge, aka All Monsters Attack. Now I'm going to have a hot take. This film is very much underrated. I mean, it's not a very good film, but I mean, people just downright despise this film. And some of it's just like, it's broken record stuff. Oh, they play, most of the fight, they pretty much ripped two of the fight scenes from past two Godzilla films. The kids kids annoying. It's pretty much stock footage, kid. That's what I tend to hear, but I kind of enjoy this film. Honestly, I do. Because part of it is I do know that there was a lot of production problems, and honestly, for the film to be as good as it is, it's a miracle. It shows how dedicated the filmmakers were to making a film, even especially Ishiro Honda, who had to take over special effects, because even though Eiji Tsuburaya is credited, he only showed up 2 days on set, mostly because he was very sick. And if for those of you who don't know, Eiji Tsuburaya was the guy who invented the suitmation essentially, and was the main special effects artist for the Godzilla films up to then. And I appreciate that Ishiro Honda was trying to really aim for the younger audience, and also during this time Gamera was actually competing against Godzilla in the box office, but I feel like the kid also gets a little bit of a bad rap, maybe because I see a lot of my younger self in that kid, just being I remember being alone, I remember being an outcast and being isolated, and I feel like also there is a message that's not as obvious as Godzilla says to fight your own battles, you know. And also, I kind of love Minya's voice. Uh, and also, even in English dub, I don't think the kid's that annoying. I'll tell you why in Godzilla vs. Megalon, but uh, yeah, like he has Home Alone aspects. You know, it's a very goofy plot, and the cinematography is still pretty nice. Uh, I do see it. I can't hate this film, and I refuse to hate this film, and I don't think it's the necessarily the worst. But I really think people really need to reprioritize. Reevaluate their priorities if they're really wasting that much time hating on this film. Like, don't get me wrong, I was in a phase where I hated this film, but now I grow up, I'm like, this film was the one that got me into Godzilla when I was 3 years old. And honestly, there's a lot of charm. And I don't know, maybe later I'll do a more in depth as to why I really enjoy this film. But anyway, we gotta get moving. We still haven't talked about we're almost done, but we have 70s to talk about, and let's talk about Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Wanna what it's like watching Godzilla movie on drugs? I mean, I don't take drugs, but I imagine Godzilla vs. Hedorah is as close to me taking drugs as possible because it's a very much of an experience. Yeah, where Godzilla is an environmentalist, and yeah, it's an experience that you need to watch. I really love Hedorah as a monster, though. Just kind of this monster of pollution. I think they nailed down this garbage monster. There are some scenes that are like, okay, no, that's just too silly, even for a Godzilla movie. If you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And now we get to Godzilla vs. Gigan. I want to say this and make this very clear. I love Godzilla vs. Gigan. I really do. It's not one of my favorite Godzilla films, but I love it. I love most of these films, and I really love this film as well. But this kind of makes this film is the reason why I feel like Godzilla's Revenge is less deserving of the hate as it is, because you could apply the same criticism, like some of the same criticisms, or I say the one main criticism to this film is the overuse of stock footage, and I think in this instance it's a little worse. Now, why is that? Well, Godzilla's Revenge, they at least had their own original music, and sure, they ripped it, two fight scenes in Godzilla's Revenge, for Godzilla's Revenge, but the fight scenes they ripped from were not even from successful Godzilla films. So I think it was more of just bringing life, for those two films at the time, just like, not to have this waste of work, this effort go to waste, I should say. That's how I see it personally. And also the island setting, obviously, but real well here it's just a lot of their popular ones. They use stock footage from like Ghidorah, Monster vs. Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. There's actually a lot more stock footage here than there is in Godzilla's Revenge, and there's also none of the music's really original. It's all stock music from Akira Ifukube. So I just want to represent, it's like, guys, if you're gonna really hate Godzilla's Revenge because it used stock footage, and also Godzilla's Revenge doesn't even take place in the Godzilla universe, and it's a film meant for kids. I think it's just, don't waste your time and energy hating on that film. And I'm not telling you to go hate on Godzilla vs. Gigan now. No, I'm just saying, put it in perspective. Like, just kind of, I'm pointing out some of the hypocrisy, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to tell you, hey, what you enjoy. You enjoy what you enjoy. You're going to not like what you not like. That's the bottom line. But let's continue on with Godzilla vs. Gigan. I love Gigan. I like the plot. I love the silly human characters. I think it's very much an overall fun film, and it's also really weird seeing Godzilla talk. That happens. Now, Godzilla vs. Megalon. Now, here's another complaint where I'm like, you really thought Ichiro from Godzilla's Revenge was annoying? The kid English dub of the kid in Godzilla vs. Megalon is 10 times more annoying. Because he screams his lines. He literally screams his lines, and he's honestly, I feel he's the most annoying. You know. And also, not only that, Shiro, yes, he got kidnapped by the two bank robbers. He got out on his own. Alright? He got out on his own. While this kid is constantly getting kidnapped by the villains. But this is a very much in the category, oh, it's so bad, it's good. Jet Jaguar is fan favorite. I love Jet Jaguar. I like Megalon, but not as much as Gigan. Gigan had a better, more cooler design. Megalon, the budget was showing. Honestly, the budget was showing. Honestly, if you like, So Bad It's Good films, definitely check this out. And now, oh boy, we're 41 minutes in, and we got two more movies to talk about. And what two movies am I going to talk about? Well, simple. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. I love this film. Like the music, even though it's not Akira Ifukube, I really like it. It's very catchy. And in fact, this is the Godzilla model, suit that was used for Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which came out in 1974. And I also really love this version of Mechagodzilla. I like the fight between fake Godzilla and Anguirus. Oh, I know, spoilers, but trust me, I wasn't caring about spoilers at the beginning. And it's really like action packed. Some of the time, I love the James Bond plots mixed in with it. It's really weird. Also, kind of this sort of pre-Indiana Jones plot, and heck, Mechagodzilla was kind of a Terminator because he was wearing Godzilla skin over his mechanical suit. And again, I really love the design, and I love how destructive Mechagodzilla appears. Like, there's another Monster King Caesar that was talked about throughout the entire film and was built up, but Godzilla and King Caesar fight Mechagodzilla, and Mechagodzilla simply goes to town. In fact, the only way Godzilla was able to win was to defy the laws of physics and become a magnetic pole. Yeah, that's how he was able to beat Mechagodzilla. It's a very entertaining film. If you're a Godzilla fan who hasn't watched it, come on. It's the first appearance of Mechagodzilla. And finally, my voice is starting to kill me, but we gotta talk about Terror of Mechagodzilla. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people prefer Terror of Mechagodzilla over Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. I'm sort of the opposite. I do see why people enjoy it, because this was the last of the Showa series. And it's the last film I'm talking about, thank goodness. And it brought back Ashiro Honda, Akira Ifukube, Tomiyuki Tanaka, bringing back, the people who made the original, or at least some of the people. And the plot is very intriguing, it is very enjoyable, don't get me wrong. I love the aspect of the cyborg Katsura, and I love Titanosaurus. I don't mind his roar personally. I know some people find it annoying. I love Godzilla's first entrance in this movie. It's definitely one of the best in the series. But I think part of it is Mechagodzilla is out of commission for most of the movie. Unlike, he was more active in the last one. Sure, he got put out of commission in the middle of the movie, but again, that was put out of commission. This one, he was mostly out of commission until the third one. And I love Akira Ifukube's music in this one as well. But overall, I just felt, I don't know why, I just enjoy Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla more. Alright, longer video than I ever thought I was going to be. But let me give you some recommendations. If you want to start with the oldies and goodies, and you're completely new to Godzilla, check out 1954 Godzilla. If you're really into serious political, dramatic films, and also it's a no-brainer to start off with. It is the first and is arguably the best. My second recommendation is Mothra vs. Godzilla. While King Kong vs. Godzilla, a lot of people say that really cemented the fighting formula Toho had. I felt like Mothra vs. Godzilla really improves on it. It has Mothra. I feel like it's a very much enjoyable film. Go check that out. If you want to check out Ghidorah's first entrance, I definitely go check out either Ghidorah the three-headed monster or Monster Zero. Both of them are just as fine, and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. But that's a little goofy, and that does have somewhat of a required taste, but completely new. Just stick with the original. And that'll be it for this video. I was talking for a long time. Yeah, unapologetically unedited in this video. So until next week, where I'm going to talk about the Heisei series and the 98 film, I will talk to you guys again real soon, and I can't wait for Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Oh, I am so hyped for that film. Anyway, take care.